I want to thank you for first meeting you in San Diego in March. And I came to you with a question about work and confusion and how I was stuck in anger and frustration. And you helped me see that my vibration wasn't there to have the joy and the fulfillment. And at the same time, I had been interviewing at several different companies to change careers. And I was scheduling the 4th round of interviews. And I knew to go 4 rounds, I wasn't there yet. So I worked on being okay with my current job and everyone in it, as angry as I was at them. And things started changing Monday already. And then Tuesday, I had the day off to go to the interview. And I went in so lighthearted, like it didn't matter. And I had so much fun in that interview cycle with the 4 people. Halfway through it, I knew I had it. And right at the end, they offered it to me. And it was an amazing offer that I wrote this number down back in January as a wild-ass number. And they met it. And my eyes popped out of my head, and I was so thrilled. And I just want to thank you because I knew it was there, that I didn't have the vibration to the speed. And as soon as I clicked in the gears, I got it.
And so you are really understanding what we mean when we say 99.99% of it is already complete before you see the evidence.
It is.
And when you take that step to vibrational alignment with your own desire, then the evidence is right there ready to pop for you.
And it was even better than I could have created on my own.
Because you have been living contrast and sending rockets of desire into your future experience. Mm-hmm. And universal forces are bringing all of those ideas, all of those subjects, all of those interests, all of those intentions, all of those preferences into alignment with one another. And you cannot remember every contrasting experience that caused every rocket of desire, but source energy does. In other words,
and
source energy knows even better than you remember all of the things that you're wanting. Yes.
And I was attaching all these amendments thinking, okay, just leave it out there. And they revised the job description at that last set of interviews, and they combined it with more things that I thought were fun.
Of course, you're supposed to get everything you want.
It's amazing.
Everyone is supposed to stand on their head in all kinds of different ways to accommodate you. The resources to make you joyful are unlimited. And once you align with that, you will just be knocked over at the way the universe can deliver.
And I was. So fast, too. So
now get out.
Right. But it takes me to the next question of a year and a half ago, my husband and I got our dream house. Again, about 3 months after we moved in, there was someone from the community that wants to take the backyard area that is about 100 feet wide, that's a drainage ditch, and it's very natural, and they want to turn it into a children's playground. And I got so helpless and angry and frustrated at them. And I joined the board over the last year to help investigate alternatives in the community. I spent all this energy acting, all this extra stuff to offer alternatives, and they shot me right down. And I'm so upset, and several of my neighbors that are directly affected, we feel as if we're going to lose our homes because of the nature of what's going to happen there.
Well, now, when you hear us talking about moving up the emotional scale, what that really is talking about is taking a scenario of what is and doing your best to make yourself feel as good as you can. Now, we really want you to hear this because your practical mind says, well, I need to anticipate everything that could go wrong, and then I need to find a way of blocking that. And if I don't do that and they just carry on with what they want, then they're going to sweep me into a place that I clearly don't want to go if I don't find some way of stopping it early or protecting myself from it.
Or if I get in alignment with saying, I accept what they're going to do, I feel like I'm caving into them, too.
Well, now let's consider it from the other point of view. Do you hear us when we say that well-being wants you? Mm-hmm. Do you hear us when we say that all of the things that you've been asking for, universal forces are lining up to accommodate you? In other words, there's not some conspiracy to keep you from well-being, and you have to fight and scratch for any little well-being that you can eke out. In fact, the exact opposite of that is true.
It is easy.
So when you are working to deliberately move yourself up the emotional scale, and the way that translates in very practical terms is, I'm going to make the best of this. From where I am, I'm going to make the best of it. Now think about what that means vibrationally. If I'm here in despair or fear or worry, and I'm deliberately making the best of something, then I'm going to move into something that feels less bad. And if I continue to deliberately make the best of it, vibrationally, I'm going to move into an even better vibrational place. And if I continue to try to make the best of it, I'm going to move into an even better place. So with that in mind, let's chat just a little bit about this. So do you own the land and they're wanting to confiscate it, or is it not your land that they're wanting to build the playground on?
The community owns the land, and there's 260 people that live in the community that, quote, all have an equal say, but there's 9 of us that are directly affected by it.
So this is an area that's owned by the community, and they're wanting to do something that would be for the betterment of the overall community, but most of the community that's voting for it are not going to be personally affected by it.
Well, we don't feel it's for the betterment. We like the natural look of how it is because it's native plants. There's a jog trail, and it's very nice the way it is. They feel a children's playground is for the betterment of it, and we disagree.
Do you have children?
No, but some of the owners do that are against it.
So can you envision happy children playing?
Yeah, I don't want them in my backyard.
So how big is your backyard?
From me to the beginning of the stage is my backyard.
So your backyard is very small. And what separates your backyard from this uninhabited area?
An open pipe fence.
So as you sit in your backyard, you can look out into this area and you like what you see.
Exactly.
And you're concerned that you won't like what you now will see.
Right.
So would you describe the emotion that is bubbling within you as being one of empowerment or disempowerment?
Very disempowering.
So it's no wonder it's almost like having a pillow pressed to your face, isn't it?
Yeah, my chest.
So
and I can't breathe sometimes. I get so upset with it.
So have you noticed that when you feel like they're going to have their way with you, they're going to do something that you don't want them to do and doesn't feel like there's anything that you can do about it, and that suffocating feeling, can you feel how when you get angry about it and when you get together with others who are willing to get angry with you, how it gives you a little bit of relief?
And we did. We got angry, we got a little revenge, we got a little research, and then I got indignant, and then I fell right back into the feeling helpless because then they take action that stops what we were doing.
When we talk about moving from that feeling of powerlessness into anger, we're not talking about staying there forevermore. We're talking about using it as a stepping stone into something that even feels better. But the thing that we want to convince you of, and it's not easy to do it with you or almost anybody in this situation, but the thing that we want to convince you of is that if you can move from that feeling of despair or powerlessness into anger, and then on into frustration, and then on into hopefulness, and then on into belief, not only can you then have power of influence about what happens, because now the universe is accommodating you. Now you're in alignment with what you want, where while you're in that fear and that worry and that anger, you are not in vibrational alignment with what you want. Imagine that you have a corporation, and this corporation has thousands of people, and you are the owner of the corporation, but you don't know about the computers, and you don't know about the products necessarily. You do not have your hands on every aspect of it. You don't even really know what many of the different people are doing. Many of them you don't even know by name or by sight. But you have a manager that knows all of that. And so when you want something relative to your company, you just tell your manager, and you have such trust or belief in your manager's ability to do whatever it takes to tell whoever needs to be told in order to get done what you need to have done, that you just relax and look at your company in that way and tell your manager what you want and trust that your manager will take care of it. Wouldn't you love to have a manager like that?
Yeah.
And we say you do. You have a universal manager that is always on your side. So this whole situation has caused you to consider things that you've never really considered before. You've focused on that area in a way that you've never really focused on it before. You've got your juices flowing about that in a way that your juices have never been flowing. And as a result, you've launched rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket after rocket of clear desire that are all being held for you in vibrational escrow. But when you fuss and fume and push against and point out all of the reasons that they shouldn't be doing it, now you are your own worst enemy. You're working against your own committee for your own cause. In other words, you're helping the others get what they want rather than helping what you want.
And that's what it feels like.
Whereas you relax and try to look for some positive aspects. Now, we're not trying to talk you into becoming at one with the idea of the playground. But if you will soften your resistance about it. You see, the thing that most people don't get is that when you soften your resistance, you get what you want. And what you're afraid of, what you just said to us is, I'm afraid that if I let down my guard, that then they'll get what they want and I want. So if I don't stand up and fight against them, then it's like caving into them. And we say, you've got to line up with your own desires. So in that effort, let's talk about it a little bit. So let's envision that you've made peace with the idea of the playground going in because you're a team player and you know it has to be somewhere, and you're not going to be one of those people that's always saying, not in my backyard. Yes, we need it, but not in my backyard, even though you'd want to, and you certainly understand that. But you're trying to soften out of that, and you're thinking to yourself that if it were done in the right way, that you might not mind it so much. If it were done in a way that would actually enhance the area, that you might not mind it so much. And since it's such a big area, you might begin thinking about how children really love to be able to move in an area that's free. So you might begin to say, wouldn't it be nice if these children had an area that was safe for them to play in that's bigger than most playgrounds, where they had places that they could hide, maybe even places where they could build their own little forts, maybe places where the natural habitat were in place, maybe places where the natural wildlife were free to move about, and occasionally there's something that they can play on here and here and here. But rather than it being a concrete, black-topped parking lot or some sort of thing that's graveled with all of that bright-colored stuff, what about something that blended in with the environment and was a place that children really wanted to be? Couldn't we have a win-win situation? You're beginning to say to yourself, wouldn't it be nice if it was a place where children love to be, where children like to play, but that was big enough and spread out far enough that they were not all concentrated in one place, where they could actually enjoy their serenity and their solitude and play their different games? And then you might say, and is there anything that I like more really than memories of childhood and memories of being free? And don't I really want a place that kids can do that? Wouldn't it be nice if all of these kids that lived here would have a place where they could go and play? And is there anything really that I like better than the sound of happy children? Children in joy, children who are tuned in, tapped in, turned on, children who are in love with life, who are free for the afternoon, who are out having a good time with each other. Wouldn't I really like that vibration and that energy sort of around me? And wouldn't it be nice if whoever's making these decisions would hear from my universal manager as I'm putting all of these ideas into the pot? And wouldn't it be lovely if they built something that was really a wonderful playground, maybe even a model playground that communities all over the country could find and use and adapt? And wouldn't I feel wonderful one day to be sitting out on my porch, and now the community, because now they've put this playground in, they've also realized that they're wanting to give us some privacy, so they've planted some shrubs and some different things close to our fence, maybe even on both sides of our fence, that's enhanced our sense of privacy and also given us still the vista off into the distance where we can see a little bit. And won't I feel good as I'm sitting here 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 10 years after the landscaping is matured and these children are grown and other children are taking their place, that I had a part in making something that is so beautiful for children to play in? Wouldn't that feel good? Now what happens is,
you're moving up the scale.
When you line up with well-being, you stop being the resistor, but you're not stopping the resistance to something that you don't want. You're stopping the resistance to something that you do want. Mm-hmm. Your resistance is subsiding, and now the universe and your universal manager has this clear, free-wielding opportunity to deliver to you in ways that you couldn't even conjure. In other words, all of a sudden, somebody comes into the picture, some developer who has access to materials that nobody even knew about when this whole thing first began. And all of a sudden, what's being built back there is not only not an eyesore, is something that's extraordinary, is something that when people come, you say, Yeah, I was part of that. You say, oh yeah, the children in the neighborhood are free to play there. They don't play there that much, but the ones that do really have a good time. And they made such a nice big place. That's what makes this playground unusual. They spread it out over a long area, so it's really a place where, because what could be more important to children than having a place that they can run and hike and hide and do all of those fun things that kids want to do?